All right, welcome back, everybody. What's up? It's Mike here. Welcome to Chapter 2. Today's lecture, we're going to be talking about inflation. All right, so if you remember from last lecture and from last chapter, if you read it, I did mention that saving long-term is only ever going to guarantee that you lose money. Well, it's true. I'm going to talk about that today. Before we get into it, though, note, it's okay to save to invest. But if you're just constantly saving and think you're going to save your way to wealth, it's impossible. Nobody's ever done it, and that's why we're here right now, to rewire that brain of yours. So let's get started. So let's just start with inflation. So what is inflation? Inflation is a word that describes what I'm putting on the board right now. When the cost of goods, okay, the price of goods, the value of goods goes up, and the value, this is your value sign, the money sign. So the value of money itself goes down. All right? Inflation is as simple as that. The cost of goods go up and services also, and the value of money goes down. So why is that? It's because as prices rise, it costs more money, more dollars to buy the same thing. So over time, the value of money is consistently and always will be going down, okay? Money is the only asset that is guaranteed to lose its value over time. That's why we have to look at money like it is a financial tool and use it as a financial tool like wealthy people do to actually create wealth and gain our financial freedom as fast as possible. So a really easy example for this, I'm going to give you two of them. One personal experience, but here's a general one. I think I use this in our text lessons too. But if it is the year of 2023, right, we'll make this easy. One apple equals $1. Well, here's me, right? Here's little old me. And I have $10. How many apples can I buy in 2023? $10, dollar an apple. I can buy 10 apples. I can buy 10 apples in 2023. Well, let's go 2024 right here. Same thing, apples, but now they're $1.10. Well, if apples are $1.10, if I go to buy 10 of them, I'm spending $11. So I can't buy 10 apples anymore. So clearly, you know, I still have my $10 here in 2024. Just saved it. I just saved my $10. I didn't invest it. I still have $10. It's still there, but I can buy less things. Guys, this is called something very important, all right? You're going to hear me mention this multiple times. This is your buying power that we're referring to here, okay? My buying power, if I don't invest my money, is guaranteed to go down, which means I can buy less goods, okay? Your buying power is the amount of goods and services that you could purchase with the money that you have in a certain given time in an economy, okay? For anybody, I don't care who you are, if you're not investing your money, your buying power is going down, will go down continuously, guaranteed. We have to invest. So that's just an easy example. As you can see, you know, whatever the exact math on that is, I don't really feel like doing it, but you can tell I can't buy 10 apples, okay? In 2023, I could buy 10, but now the price of my apple went up, and now I can buy less of them because my money is losing its value, okay? So inflation, guys, it is describing when goods and services prices rise, the value of money goes down. This is always happening day in and day out, okay? Inflation is the biggest hidden tax on your money, okay? Federal income tax, state income tax, taxes on your groceries, taxes on property, you name it. You're getting taxed all these ways. But this, okay, this is the biggest hidden tax because you don't see it. You can't even see that your money is losing value. Guys, this is exactly why we have to invest, all right? This is why we're here, to start rewiring this brain, to understand stuff like this and actually create wealth. So guys, we talked about inflation, but now I want to talk about the inflation rate, okay? And the inflation rate, okay, that's the rate at which, you know, the government is printing money or at which more money is coming into the economy. More money is coming into circulation, all right? And that is from lending in banks, and we'll get into that in further chapters. I actually mentioned that. But when banks lend money, it actually creates money because of fractional reserve banking, and we'll talk about that later. But the inflation rate and your personal inflation rate are two totally different things. So here's a really easy example right now that I want to go over. The average rate of inflation comes out to about 3.7% over the past 80 years, I believe, since 1940. That's what it is. Well, that doesn't mean that that's the rate at which your money is losing value. You could be losing more value because you have to look at your personal inflation rate. Okay, that's the one that's really important. Are prices actually rising 3.7% based on what you're spending and what you're buying, or are they rising more? Because in some cases, they're rising more, okay? Depending on the items you buy, your personal inflation rate could be higher than the actual inflation rate. And if you don't buy much, hey, it could be lower. But here's an example of this that I want to give you guys. So I'm from New Jersey. My girlfriend lives in North Jersey. They have really good breakfast sandwiches. So back in 2022, my bagel sandwich, I got a bacon, egg, and cheese. So back in 2022, that sandwich cost $7.25. Well, now in 2023, I just bought this the other weekend, and it cost me $8, no cents, just $8 flat. Well, right there, I can see that, remember, 3.7% is the average inflation rate, and I can see that this is more than a 3.7% increase, and I'll show you how to calculate that. This is actually a 10.35% increase. So just in the aspect of my bagel sandwich and buying my breakfast, I've lost 10.35% of value on my money if I did not invest. So 10.35% came from me taking the difference, which is 75 cents, and dividing that difference into the original price of $7.25. Comes out to 10.35. So as you can see, the average inflation rate comes out to about 3.7% over the past 80 years, but 10.35%, I'm seeing some of the goods that I buy increase in value. All right, stuff like this, that's what I really look at. I look at my personal inflation rate, okay? How much, are the prices increasing on the things that I buy? Because they can sit here and feed me the fact that, inflation averages at 3.7, or, hey, inflation's a little high, it's at 6%, but you might tell me inflation's at 6%. If I'm seeing my stuff's increasing 10%, I'm thinking, okay, my money's losing about 10% of value right now, year over year, at least. So this is exactly why, a pure example of why you have to invest. Prices are always going to be going up. They're not coming down, and money is always going to get weaker. So we have to use money to invest and create more money. We have to use money as a financial tool, okay? Remember, we're trying to create wealth. That's what people that create wealth do. So now that we've talked about inflation and how money loses its value over time, really what I've been talking to you about is that exact concept, the time value of money, okay? So, time value of money. So, what does the time value of money tell us? So the time value of money is a super important concept, guys. And all that it tells us is $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. Time value money. $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. Super important concept. This is something you absolutely want to understand, okay? Your money is worth more today and working for you today than it is worth tomorrow, okay? And from that bagel example I just gave you, you can tell in 2022, my dollars were worth more than they were in 2023. Super important concept. understanding this concept will really get you guys comfortable with investing your money, okay? Because you'll know that if you aren't doing anything with this money, it's only losing value. So you better invest it and start getting it to create money, okay? You have to beat that. You got to beat this, guys. This 3.7% inflation rate, okay? Average over, over 80 years, like you have to at least be earning 3.7% on your money in profit every year just to break even, okay? That's just to break even. So if you're not making that much, you're guaranteed losing money. Time value money, super important. All right, so now we're gonna get into some really good stuff, all right? This is something that not a lot of people are talking about, and I really don't know why. And this is something that, like, if you go to a financial advisor, they won't even like talk to you about this either, okay? And this is something called your real rate of return. So we talked about that average rate for inflation being 3.7%, all right? We talked about that. We talked about the average rate of inflation being 3.7%, and we talked about, inflation itself, and we talked about the time value of money. So we know our money's losing value, okay? Consistently, day in and day out, always losing value. So now that we know and we've made, the conclusion that we have to invest our money, we want to start looking at the real rate of return. Because like we talked about, money loses its value. So when we invest it and make money, we have to incorporate this 3.7% rate or whatever the inflation rate is at that time, really, that current yearly inflation rate. We have to beat that rate. All right, we got to beat this or we got to beat this, whatever is higher, all right? So we got to beat, the inflation rate. Any gains over that are actual gains, okay? So we want to look at our real rate of return. Because if you don't look at your real rate of return, if you make an investment, you make 9%, right? So you make an investment and you get 9% back. That's basically the average return of the stock market over the past 80 years. You're going to get about 9% a year. So if you get 9%, but the average rate is 3.7%, you got to take that away, all right? You got to minus 3.7%. Because your balance in your investment, your account balance might have grown 9%, but your buying power, how many things you can buy, how many more things you can buy, didn't grow 9%. Because we have to calculate our inflation rate in to really, compensate for the devaluing of money and see how much we really grew our buying power. So for somebody that got a 9% return and the average rate of inflation is 3.7%, you actually only got 5.3% of a return on your buying power. Okay, that's the important part. Because it feels good saying, oh, I got a 9% return, but you got to remember that money is getting weaker. So how much did you really grow your buying power? That's what real rate of return tells us. So the easiest way to calculate real rate of return is exactly what I just did here, okay? The formula for real rate of return is really simple. It's just the inflation rate, okay, minus your rate of return on an investment. That is going to equal your real rate of return. Now that you know that, this is why it's important to learn how to invest your own money, because now that we know real rate of return exists and that our money is losing value, we can't afford to be paying financial advisors to invest our money for us. Anybody can open an account and dollar cost average, which is just buy over the same interval, time after time with the same amount of money to consistently lower and average out your cost of an investment. Well, that's what a financial advisor is going to tell you to do, but they're going to charge you 2%, okay? So they're going to pitch you and say you're going to get 9%, but they're going to take 2%, and then you got to calculate your inflation rate. So now you're really at 9% minus their 2% minus the 3.7, you're at minus 5.7%. Well, hate to break it to you guys, but nobody is building wealth getting a 3.3% return on their money. This is why it's important to learn how these concepts work so you can save yourself 2% a year at least. You're already working to beat inflation. You can't afford to be paying somebody else to do your investments for you just because they're financially literate and you're not. Okay? Remember, financial literacy and financial knowledge is the ultimate gap. That's the number one gap between you and everything you ever wanted. So it's important that we understand these concepts. Without real rate of return and understanding, we want to grow our buying power, not just our account balance. You're gonna be misled to think that your investments are doing better than they are, all right? But you gotta be able to look through the glass, all right? You gotta be able to see through that. All right, so another example of that is the other day, I trade stocks. I actually trade ETFs in the stock market. So I made 23.5% on my entire portfolio, on the entire thing. And I do this multiple times a year, and I might just teach you guys how one day. But 23%, well, I got to take the current inflation rate is what I really like to use and prefer. Well, I took, at the time, it was January 2023, was 6.4%. So I just went with 6%, hoping, it went down a little bit at the time I did this trade, because that's what the entire, Federal Reserve is for, controlling the economy, inflation, all that good stuff, yada, yada. But, so I took that 6%, so it's nice to sit here and say, hey, I made 23.5%, but, like I said, you gotta take into account for inflation. So really, that return only grew my buying power 17.5%, which is still great. Most people, it's gonna take you about 3 years with an average return of 9% to grow your buying power that long. I did it in like 2 to 3 weeks, which is awesome. But it's important that you don't let, the return on your account balance actually mislead you and think that you're making more money than you are, because you're not. We want to measure how much more stuff can we buy each year. That's how we're going to judge on if it was a good investment or not. So until next time, see you guys.